everyone, I'm Anam.
I'm Ksenia, and welcome to This Wasn't in the Manual.
We're two friends and ex-colleagues who worked at the same company for over a decade.
But came from totally different worlds. I'm from Russia and moved to Dubai recently.
And I'm from Pakistan, but I grew up in Dubai. And like most people, a lot of our day-to-day challenges or professional experiences we've been through were never really taught to us.
Today we have Dylan. He started his career early with no formal degree. And over the last 30 years, he's worked across Australia, London, and now Dubai. From marketing roles to running his own business, he's all about creating real-world brand experiences that actually mean something.
And he's here to share how he navigated these multiple lives, one of which I had the pleasure of experiencing. So let's get into it. Hi, Dylan.
Hi, guys.
So happy to have you here. For those who are listening, Dylan was our ex-boss and a significant role model and mentor in my life for the past couple of years. Him, along with my other boss, showed me how leaders can be your friends and confidants. Dylan, however, got the rough end of it because he got to hear everything about my life. Also entertained it for most part. So I'm very grateful for that. And so grateful that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Dylan, let's start from the most
Straight
interesting...
into it, Ksenia. I love it.
Yeah, as always. So let's start from the most interesting point, in my opinion.
Okay.
So Anam told me that you didn't get any formal degree. And I'm curious about this because most people get told that you need a degree to succeed. For example, I got 3 degrees because my parents insisted on this.
I did not
Just
know
to make
that.
sure that one, because they were afraid that one wouldn't work out. That's why they were like, yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. Before we get with you, what 3 degrees
Yes,
did you
3
do?
degrees, yes.
In what?
Journalism, sociology, and economy.
Are we the same age? Like,
Yes.
Are you like 100 years old? Like, when did you have
I was
time?
just rushing through my life, you know?
Oh my
like,
God, that's insane.
Did you start at 12?
almost.
Almost.
So tell us, like, what do you feel about? Because I mean, we've been brought up with certain milestones that we should achieve. So go to school, go to university. I mean, I had a unusual, milestone, like say like when I achieved them, because I went to school, I took a little break because of different circumstances. But the standard is go to school, go to university, get a job, get married, have children. So I feel like you did completely differently.
Yes. So my experience of school was not the greatest. I was never a real good student through high school. In fact, I tried to leave high school to get a trade. When I was 14 in Australia, legally you can leave high school to enter into an apprenticeship. And that's what I tried to do. So I did try to do that, but my parents insisted that I stay in school, which I was never really fond of. And that's where, I guess, I stayed for the rest of the high school period. But after that, I didn't see any point. One, I wasn't particularly happy with high school. I passed all the courses and everything else, but that's not really... I wasn't really happy with going back to school. Like, if I've just gone through, 12 years of schooling, and then I've got my own choice to either go and try to work or go back into another schooling system, which would have been college and university. I chose the other. So I didn't go into university. I never got a college degree. But what I did was worked. I started working from very early on and this is going back now, even prior to high school. My first job was, as most normal kids that are like 10 years old, they do a paper run. So I went to the local newsagent and I put my bicycle, had all the newspapers stuffed onto the sides of the bike. I can
imagine little Dylan like going
Yep. And that was the first entry into my working life. Throughout that period, obviously, I didn't do paper run for the whole time. I did progress my career from there, and I started working in retail, working in stores as boxes, stackers, and
That's so interesting. I never knew that you didn't like your school time, because when we talked, I remember that you told me that usually in Australia at school you have different sport activities. For example, you are surfing, you are
Yeah,
playing
and
golf,
that
and it
was-
sounds so fancy for me, to be honest.
That sport was never the problem. Sport was never the issue for me. It was more the prescribed education system. And I remember there was a couple of teachers that I actually enjoyed being taught by, and that one was my English teacher. And I remember I was a terrible student, but I was clever. I was a clever student, so I would pass all of the exams and I would be doing the work, but it would look like I'm not paying attention. So I would sit into a classroom and be staring out the window or whatever it was. And I remember my teacher giving me a little bit of feedback saying, you just need to look like you're doing some work.
Amazing.
Because it looks like you're being idle. And she was right. But it was the work that I was good at. Like the writing, the English was always something that came easily and naturally for me. Maths was a different story. Maths was a bit of a challenge, but you know.
You and me both.
Yeah. But everything else, I didn't really get why we were being taught all of the things.
Yeah.
Right? I know it sounds silly. It's an education. You get taught a whole bunch of different stuff.
But I think most of us who grew up in that generation where we went to school, I feel like a lot of this is a whole reason why you started this podcast, because a lot of the stuff we were taught in school has absolutely no use. Of course, there is other benefits. There's structure, there's a social element, there are other things that you learn, like the basics. I wasn't a great student in school either. Like, I happened to flourish later in life because I was just distracted by everything else.
I think that's the main point, right?
Yeah.
The distractions are just so many,
Yeah.
especially when you're that age of teenage years.
Yeah.
Your mind is doing 1,000 different things.
Right. And you're in search for like a creative pursuit constantly, and school doesn't provide that.
And that's
Didn't, at least back then.
The areas that I did excel at were the creative areas.
Yeah, I'm no surprise.
Right. So the photography, I took photography as a class, and I was doing really, really well with that. The art classes, that type of thing.
That makes
creative
sense.
writing.
You had the photography as a class?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's so cool.
we got to, we had to have our own cameras, like the old SLR cameras where it was all film.
Do you still have it?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. And then you go into the dark room and you use all the chemicals and you process all your photos. And I love that. It was such a fun thing for me to do. And I kind of wish I'd stuck doing more of that, but obviously
Life happens.
Life happens, right?
Yeah.
Started working, didn't really do too much. Sorry?
Capitalism.
You are absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Capitalism. But the other thing, when I got to the end of high school, my parents, bless them, they tried everything that they could to get me to progress into college.
Sure.
So much so that when I turned around to them at 14 to say, look, I want to do an electrician apprenticeship, kind of following my father's footsteps. My father was an electrician. So I wanted to do that.
Oh.
And my mother was like, no. I need you to finish high school. And here's what I'm going to do to help facilitate that. Once you finish high school, I will buy you a car. And that was like, ooh. Bribery. And that was exactly what it was. So when I finished high school, Mum, obviously honoring her commitment and the promise, she said, okay, well, let's look at buying you a car. And I said, look, you can keep the car. I want to travel. So instead of buying the car, give me the money so that I can go and travel. And I had family in the UK. My half of my family is from the UK. So I was like, I want to go and try and experience something new, away from my parents and away from Australia. And that's what I did. I spent a year living in the UK, not in London. It wasn't London.
Where was
Let me
it?
just clarify that right now. It was the north. So as a 17-year-old, because I wasn't yet 18, I was 17 at the time, I moved in with my godparents who lived up in Stoke-on-Trent, which is kind of
Is it
a little bit further north
what's
than
north
Midland.
like? Do you know?
It's like near Manchester, around that area. If you're
Yeah.
familiar with,
I don't know.
the UK.
I'm not familiar with it. I don't know if
But
you're.
when you decided to go to the UK, your plan was the same. So you just wanted to have, let's say, a gap year, and then you wanted to go back and become
I had
an
no
electrician.
intention to go. I had no intention to go into university or college, and the reason being, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I couldn't commit myself to doing a arts degree or whatever it is, a Bachelor of Science of something, because I didn't know. I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to waste another 4 years of my life potentially doing something that's not really going to be beneficial for me.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot because I hopped around a lot as well. But that's for another time. But I resonate with that. Yeah.
We'll have a coffee and we'll chat about that. But yeah, that was kind of my mind at that time.
But you didn't have a clear plan what exactly
I had
you
no
were doing.
idea.
Oh, okay.
Quite frankly, I had no idea what I was doing. I knew that there was a bigger world out there than where I was kind of living at the time, which was Sydney in Australia. Don't get me wrong, it was a fantastic lifestyle.
Had you traveled before?
Before that, yeah, I had traveled back and forth from Australia to New Zealand, but because Australia's so far away from everything,
Yeah.
there's not a huge amount you can do by yourself.
Yeah,
as a teenager, right?
True.
So that was my first big adventure, let's say, to travel to the UK, spending it with my godparents, and I ended up getting a job at a theme park. So it wasn't to just hang out for a year. I wanted to work. I wanted to do stuff and experience what the life outside of school was. So I was working. I was working in a theme park, and I was a ride attendant at one of the roller coasters, and had a ball. I turned 18 there, and I experienced many great things as a 18-year-old boy
That's
should
amazing.
do. And I had an absolute ball. Some hard life lessons learned over that course of a year. It was funny. Like, I moved out of the house that I was living with my godparents, moved into a house with people from the theme park who were slightly older than I was.
Yeah.
Were your parents freaked out because of the choice you
here's
took?
the thing. My upbringing was great. I had a wonderful upbringing. I was just such an independent, stubborn so-and-so as a kid. So for them, it was natural. Like, Dylan's going to go out and do what he does because that's just who he is.
Did they have other children?
No.
Oh, so you were the only
The
one.
one was enough, I think, for them. It was like, that was it. We're done. Just took one look at me and went, no, we're not doing. But yeah, no, I spoke to them frequently, so they knew what I was up to. But yeah, I moved into this house with one colleague and his girlfriend. And there was all kinds of stuff going on between their relationship, and I had nothing I didn't know I want to be any part of that. But I got dragged in. There was my friend was kind of hiding stuff from his girlfriend. And I'm not going to go into the sort of details, but there was all these things, and she confronted me.
Oh.
She confronted me about what he was doing. And I was like, well, I don't know. So I kind of put my hands up and said, it's not my place to say. You need to sort it out with him.
Yeah.
And she went to him and said some stuff and said, Dylan told me this. And I was like, I did not say anything.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it was all these things. And I was like, okay.
And you're 18 at this time.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So I was a kid, and then he chucked me out. So he threw me out of the house, and that was the morning that it happened. We usually got a ride into work together. And I was running out the door. He was already out of the house. And I could just see him getting in the car at the end of the street, and then the car drive off. And it was a good 5 mile from the house to the
Oh yeah, because they
theme
worked
park.
with you, so
Yeah.
he left you back.
So
mean.
I had to hitchhike in that day.
Go find him.
Yeah, so I
Hope
was
he's still at the
hitchhiking into
theme park.
work on the country roads of the UK, hitchhiking in, and luckily I had some free passes for the theme park, so I knew that there was going to be people going into the theme park. So I
Okay.
had stuck my thumb out, and people would stop, and it's like, look, thanks so much for picking me up. Here's a couple of free passes to get in, but yeah, it was
That's so
it was
sad.
some hard lessons to
18-year-old.
learn, and that was one of them. That's really stuck with me. It's like you just really need to be careful about the.
But
the
you were
people that
careful,
put your-
basically.
I
But you
am.
were also 18.
I was, and that was the thing. I was
Yeah.
so young and naive about life.
Yeah. when you look back, you're just like, my God, that's
Right.
an experience and a half, you know.
Right. And then they're the experiences that
Shape
kind
you?
of define you,
Yeah.
right? And they're the learning experiences. And that's kind of where my whole education has come from, is being traveling, doing things, going out, experiencing stuff, rather than sitting in a lecture hall or a school classroom where you get an academic
Yeah.
wonder and sense of how the world works,
Yeah.
but not a real life experience. And that's the way that I look at it now. I know that there's a lot of people that are still in the mindset that if you don't have an academic career in terms of university degrees, then you're not as capable. I think that's absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. I just think that it's easier for people because if you have
It's
a
tick
road,
box.
it's
tick
easier
box
to go by this
on
road.
on
Yeah.
a recruitment form.
I think it really depends on the circumstances as well, because I did that for a while, and where you were employed as my boss earlier. I mean, when I was working, obviously as multinationals, there's circumstances where you live, the place you live, the industry you're in, the certain standards by global companies. I had to do my degree while I was working just because I knew it was worth it. But like this whole like take off, hey, you don't have a degree, and especially as an expat. But I'm 100% in agreement with you, like in terms of experience as personal growth. But unfortunately, for a lot of the expats that move around the world, a degree limits you. If you don't have one, it limits you drastically.
I agree with that. And
so-
look, one of the
Even just,
most
like,
frustrating
scaling
things
up,
is that
yeah.
because of that.
It's crazy
and it
because
is
it's just a
crazy.
piece of paper. And can I tell you, when I did graduate, nobody asked me. I posted a picture on like Facebook and I got the job, and I'm just like, that's insane.
And it's,
But now they ask me for like, so
the
it
thing
was
that
worth
amuses
it.
me the most as well is that you look at some of the people that are in, say, our field, which is
Yeah.
marketing and
Yeah.
advertising, and the degrees that they have, they're nothing related to
At
what we
all.
do.
To marketing.
But because they've got it, they're getting selected above
100%.
people that are maybe more experienced or
100%.
have other qualities that should
Yeah.
be getting them the job. So it is a frustration, but it is something that you have to live with. And as an expat,
Yeah.
it is
Yes.
one of those things.
Very true. I think that's changing now, though, I feel.
Now you'd be surprised. There's still a lot of
Yeah.
Someone
Because
asked you for the degree recently?
So I think there's always a nuance there. Like 10 years ago, I mean, you were also like, there's this not speaking the same language. Because you're like in a certain place, you need to speak the language for your clients and brands. And it's not limited to the company I work with, it's across the board. I mean, without getting into too much detail about my experience, it's just there was it was assumed, or like it was kind of said in a way that, yeah, fine, but like don't know how to like get you to the next position because you don't have that degree. How do you become like a manager or like a
Someone told you this?
What's more shocking is someone telling me when I was hustling is that, why are you trying so hard? You're not gonna get anywhere because
Really?
you're not Arabic speaking.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And at that time, my little goal was just to be a manager, and look at here I am. So I think I was like super delusional. I think that for me, if I had to describe how I got where I got, is just being delusional. Is I didn't even know I was, because I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to ignore the noise. This is when you grow up, you start listening to so much noise. But yeah, people told me twice, actually, why are you working so hard? You're not. It's not like you'll go up the rank because you're not.
Don't listen to that.
Yeah, well, I didn't.
Yeah,
so
that's
so I'm great. Yeah, it's great. I think this is also another reason why I'm so grateful that you were. Unofficially a mentor to me as well. I think I've had the privilege of meeting friends and bosses that have had a great impact on me, and that kept me going. People come for a season and for a reason, and that's definitely true. So I think that has kept me going, and we want. This is another reason why this podcast is so important, because a lot of people don't know that you can navigate without the official standard given to us. Do this, do that. Sanya did 3 degrees. And did you do anything in marketing? Did you do a degree in marketing?
No, I
That's it.
didn't.
Yeah.
That's it.
Economy, sociology, and journalism. So everything
To
except
be honest, everything is transferable. We have, in my team, they're engineers. Why?
Look, and I think there are times when
Yeah.
a degree in a certain field will
Absolutely. I would
be
not
needed.
let a doctor
Doctor,
operate
yeah.
on me.
Engineers, for example, is
Engineers,
a
of
huge one, right?
course.
And
Yeah, yeah.
especially, and this, I think I've been told this story by someone else before, is that I would rather have, well, I absolutely want someone that's going to be an engineer on an aircraft,
Yes.
engineer to be looking at the
pilot.
mechanics, rather than say someone that it's got a tertiary degree or
of
tertiary
course.
education and being
Yeah.
told what to do. I'd rather want someone that's got an
100%.
engineering degree
Yeah, 100%.
in that field.
Yeah, you know what?
But marketing, absolutely.
Marketing, yeah.
It's all about experiences.
100%.
I just think that, maybe you don't, in my opinion, you don't need a degree to succeed in the most of the professions.
Yeah.
But usually it's just an easier start for you because
yeah,
you have a
exactly.
path, that you go to university. After university, you will get some internship program and blah, blah, blah. But what about you? So how did you manage to get your, to nail your first real job?
Just through work. One thing leads to another. So, and again, kind of going back in time now a little bit, this is going into nostalgic thinking. But going from working in the theme parks in the UK, coming back to Australia.
You returned to Australia?
Yeah. So
Oh,
I was
okay.
18. I was 18 at the time, and I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life living in
Abroad,
Stoke-on-Trent. Yeah,
right?
no, Stoke-on-Trent in the UK. So I went back to Sydney, and I did do a little bit of secondary education in graphic design. So I went back into a design certificate, which was basically telling you the basics of all the HTML coding, building games, working with all the creative suites of Adobe, like Photoshop, and all of the video editing tools and stuff like that. And it was lovely. I had a great time doing that. And then from there, I got a job in a printing press. So I was working at a printer, doing all the graphic design work for people that would come in and want to do their printing out their magazine covers or whatever it is that they wanted. So I was working there as a kind of quick stop graphic design studio, which was fun. It was a lot of fun. And then I moved from there into a proper graphic design studio where they did signboards for all of the real estate companies around the Sydney western suburbs.
So the printing was your first job?
Yeah.
Is that where you met
Well,
Naomi?
it was my first real job.
First real
I can
job.
say that was my first real job because I had to get like the...
I mean,
it
aside
wasn't a
of the
cash in hand job.
I get
That's
that.
what I'm
Yeah.
getting
No,
to.
I understand that.
But prior to that, I'd done pretty much everything. I was a painter. So I was working with my buddy and his father that had his own kind of creative painting company. And I'm not talking like painting walls.
Yeah.
We were painting walls, but it was more Venetian stucco. So you had to, it's like really intricate work where you had to sand it back, put down the polish, make it look like it's a nice design, and then wax it, polish it again, and then stippling of roofs in commercial spaces. So I was doing that for a summer period as well. I used to clean boats down at one of the marinas in Sydney. Obviously retail again. But yeah, I've done number of jobs just because I loved working.
Yeah.
That was really where I got most of my experiences from. And you come across so many interesting people that way as well.
I was going to say, I think my favorite part of jumping around after school was the variety of people I met. It's just from from the CEOs to like working at like a call center to working at a mall. You meet all kinds of people, and I think growth comes from there.
Yeah. And I can tell you one job that really tests your resilience is door-to-door sales.
Oh my God, you did that.
Yeah, I did that for a little while as well. So walking around with a satchel full of coupon codes for all the local businesses and trying to sell them as a package to door-to-door.
Damn.
Like, it was tough. Like lucky if someone even opens the door, and then when they do, they're usually telling you to do one in a not so nice way.
It's so interesting for me. I
but
think
but you start to then develop a way of working with people, if that makes sense. So
it does.
You become very quick at adapting to someone's personality and talking to them in their language.
It's true because when I met Dylan, I think over time, when I got talking to him, it's quite evident that he's traveled through multiple cultures and he's been around different people and different spaces, is because how adaptable he is with people around him. Like, I don't think anybody phases him. I've never seen him feel uncomfortable, very comfortable. And that comes with experiencing all kinds of people, I think.
Yeah.
So I think it checks out.
The story checks out.
Yeah. Story checks out, guys. Validated.
Yeah.
But I like this story about door-to-door sales because I had similar experience. So once I worked at a call center. To be honest, in my opinion, it's easier because at least you don't face people like face-to-face. But still, you need to call some stranger and you need to ask them for something. And it was like, at first, I was so like nervous and everything. But after like several calls, you got used to it. And after this, you are not afraid of asking people some stuff. And I think that's what teaches us, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. But tell us about your first job in marketing. How did you manage to get into marketing?
So my first job in marketing was actually in the UK. So leaving Sydney again.
Again?
Again, I left it
How many years did you spend in?
So I went back to Sydney when I was 18 and I left again when I was 23. So it was 2003 when I left Sydney for the second and last time. Before I left, I was graphic designing for a little while, earning a ton of money. Like I was for at the time I was 19, 20 years old, I was earning a better salary than say people that have been in the business for a substantially longer time than I had.
Oh, super.
So I was riding high. So I had a bit of change in my pocket. And then I decided, you know what, this is too easy. So I left that job and started to do something completely different, which was working in a warehouse, doing delivery driving, driving a van, driving a van from the warehouse to around, but because it gave me more flexibility. I didn't need to be stuck to a computer or an office all day long. I was working the warehouse, helping the warehouse manager with stocking and loading up the van, and then I would go out and deliver all the items to the retail stores. So I was doing that for a little while, and I'd managed to save up a bit of money doing that, and then working weekends as well as a trampoline attendant in the carnival. There was a local carnival in Sydney, so I was doing that, and then I moved to the UK, and I thought I'm going to get a graphic design job in London. That never happened. The brutal reality of moving from Sydney to London was that it is way more people in London than there were in Australia all put together, right? So my first experience of getting off the plane in London was, oh my God, there are so many people here. That was a real eye-opener for me. And then trying to enter into the job market there is really tough. From just this really naive kid still, trying to get into a graphic design job with a really shaky portfolio of creative work. It just never happened. So I had to get a real job, and that was a temp work. So I was working for a financial services company in the UK, which is funnily where I met my wife.
Is that where? I always thought it was a printing job. No, okay.
Naomi and I met at the Financial Services Authority.
Milestone checked.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And then from there, I moved on to other work in real estate, funnily enough, which most Australians kind of find themselves in when they move to London. Yeah. So I did the same thing, worked in real estate for a little bit. But then an opportunity came up for a lead generation company that worked in the international property market. So my experience within real estate kind of lent itself to both the digital background that I had with HTML work from my graphic design days. The two blended really nicely together. And that's where my first real marketing job was. I was an account manager for a lead generation company that specialized in having multiple different websites that promoted international properties. And what we would do is we would talk to the agents that worked in those markets and said, look, you want to get leads, it will cost you and it really was almost like the precursor to programmatic, because they were bidding in real time on the leads, and there were hot leads. When people clicked on the website link, it would go directly to the agent with all the details, but that would cost them. So every time there was a credit system that had, they could top up. So if they put like £1,000 in, let's say, and they wanted to have their bid come in at £100 per lead because the properties were that like expensive, then they would get the leads sent out. And then when the money ran out, they would top up again.
Interesting.
So it was a really cool company. Unfortunately, it was ahead of its time. It didn't really last too long, but I got out before it kind of went sideways for them. And that's where I met one of my oldest kind of colleagues and friends within the industry, Boye. If for those listening that are familiar with the marketing industry, they'll probably know who Boye is.
Yeah.
He hired me at Profero in London.
No way.
As an affiliate executive. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you
So
guys were just
that was my
media friends.
first entry into
Very cool.
agency life, and that was in 2009. So I was with Lead Galaxy from 2006 and then till 2009, and that's when I went into agency life.
Very cool.
Just a quick question about logistics. So you went to the UK from Australia, but did you have a right to work in the UK?
I'm British, yeah. So my father,
okay.
because my father and my whole father's side of the family is British, I have ancestry.
Oh, okay.
So it was easy.
So I had a passport.
I guess in UK seemed like the right choice.
It was easy.
Yeah.
It was easy. It was
yeah.
easy entry for
Yeah.
me. I with Australia and New Zealand, there's a kind of reciprocal
Sure.
entry
Yeah.
process. So I could move freely from between Australia and New Zealand and the UK.
Oh, interesting. Because I thought that you went to the UK, you lived there for 7 years, and that's how you got the passport.
That's how my wife did it.
Oh,
But I had the easy entry.
Very cool. Actually, funny how much we used to sit together for like 3 years or more.
Actually, we
and
were
I
like
did-
next to each other, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's right.
I think I was the one mostly yapping. No surprise there, but like I didn't know most of these things, which is very cool. Okay. I mean, it's a good segue to coming back to Dubai. You lived across Australia, the UK, and you've traveled a lot too, but like living itself. And then you came to Dubai, which has been how long now?
8 years now.
8 years now. How did each place, do you think we understood that each place shaped you in a very unique way? Australia did, UK did. Coming to Dubai, what are the cultural differences that you noticed that you had to adapt to when you came to Dubai from?
Every market that I've lived in, or every country that I lived in, I should really just say it's country, it's not a market. It's every country that I've lived in has had different culture shocks, let's say, because you've got to adapt to
from
them fairly quickly.
Australia to then going UK.
Right, Australia
again.
is a fairly laid back
Yeah.
kind of existence. The work gets done, obviously. Like the work is hard and work gets done, but when there's downtime, it's pretty chill, pretty relaxed place. The UK was fast paced. It was when I first got off the plane,
was it?
and there was a lot of people. Everyone's hustling.
Right.
It's a real fast paced environment. One of the first things that really threw me was the pace in which people walked in London. It's a weird thing, but coming from Australia, where you walk in a kind of your own pace, it's a slower lifestyle, so you walk in a slower pace. London streets, if you walk slow, you're going to get walked over the top of.
Is that like the New York streets?
Kind of, yeah. I'm not familiar with how people walk in New York, but I know in London that people were walking really fast, and that's kind of the way that the work was as well.
In Moscow, they're running usually, you know.
Yeah, it really is. So yeah, it was the pace in which people were working and the hustle that everyone was kind of, and you adapt to that. And I think that's how it's been here as well. So the pace in which people work here and the pressure is super fast. Like the SLAs that people are asking for. Admittedly, there's SLAs on paper, but you can pretty much throw that out the window because people want everything done yesterday.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the same in Australia? Because I thought, to be honest, that it is the same across the world.
It depends on what you're doing. So with the printing job, for example, we set the guide of what the SLA is. If we had a backlog of things that were being printed, it would be, okay, we'll get this to you in 3 or 4 days. If you did that here, you'd be like, no, I'm going down the road. I'm gonna get it done like in 10 minutes.
Yeah, 100%. No, there is this saying when we were growing up, it's like if you worked in Dubai, you could work anywhere else in the world. And I've heard with friends who moved to Australia, it's a different environment.
I'm talking 20 years ago now.
Even now, by the way, I feel like what you're saying kind of still resonates with people. I feel like they're I don't know, the biology hasn't changed much in terms of like taking things slow, enjoying the good things in life. And, I feel like they're still there. The mindset is still there. But yeah, it makes sense. I feel like UK slowed down a little bit though, from what you were saying. I'm not sure, but I might be wrong. Maybe I'm looking at one or two industries or people or companies.
I think the UK, I think they're more aligned with the SLAs.
Yeah.
So if they have set an SLA, they'll stick to them.
Sure.
So if it's a 24-hour, 48-hour turnaround, they'll say you'll get this in 48 hours.
Yeah.
Whereas here,
yeah,
they won't.
It's such a.
It's like even if you say, look, the SLA is 48 hours, I don't care. I want this like by the end of the day.
It's a very competitive and fast-growing market. I mean, this is why Dubai is where it is, because of the crazy amount of work people have put in, and
I think there's an abundance of people coming into
absolutely
into the UAE now as well. Yes. So if you can't do it, I'm going to find someone that can.
Absolutely, and the people are highly skilled, and there's so many. Dubai provides you those opportunities as well. Fortunately, for all of us that live here, so you have to get up to speed, Yeah.
But the cultural differences between the UK, Australia, and here, they're all different, right?
Yeah.
So with adapting to the markets that you work within is super important. Like you come in here thinking you're going to do what you did in the UK, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, it's always so interesting to me when people talk about moving. Even you moved in your adult life as well, Sania, and we have a common friend who's moved like multiple places, and he was telling me that his 12-year-old daughter has now seen 25 countries, you know. Although like with some challenges, obviously the kids will, resist because they've made friends and they have to move again and again. They travel, yes, a lot, but they also move and reside in certain places. So this guy, I think, has moved, if I'm not wrong, at least 10 places lived in.
Wow.
But we're just talking. I'm like, I'm. The kids may not see it now, but like I think later in life they'll understand that their experience has been richer than any university or any book. Although books are great, but like I think it's extremely fascinating. But I would love to speak to him as well, because I feel like even did you ever feel like now I want to move somewhere else, or was it always what's next, or now no, Dubai is where I want to settle and find my pace?
It's like any time that I've moved, it was never my intention to be looking for the next thing.
Okay.
It was, I'm always open to opportunities. And let's just kind of say that. I'd rather look at it the way that I've always approached everything, is that I want to do the best I can in whatever I'm doing.
Sure.
And I've got no intentions to move on from those things. However, there are always going to be times where an opportunity presents itself, and you really need to weigh up what are the benefits of doing that versus staying where I am right now. And that's how I've managed. Like that's how I've moved around.
100%. And now with the family, and now you have a beautiful baby boy.
Absolutely. And now it's the real life stuff gets involved, where you've got a lot more responsibility now. Obviously, wife, child, all the rest of it that comes along with being a real life human boy.
Yes.
I like it. Live human boy.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking about opportunities. So recently you decided to set up your own business.
Yes.
What made you take this step?
A slight necessity. I joined a company that unfortunately failed, and left myself and a couple of others floundering a little bit. But from all the conversations that we were having with this previous company, my now friend and business partner, we always came out of those meetings thinking there's something missing here. Like we were trying to sell digital space in hotels and other luxury locations. Everyone that we spoke to about those, like having the brands into those locations, was more like, we like the idea. We want to be in those spaces, but we don't want to be on the screen. That's not exciting for us anymore. If you want to do out of home advertising, there are much more impactful places you can do that, which is mainly along Sheikh Zayed Road and all the big billboards and signage that you see everywhere in Dubai.
Yeah.
Doing it in 1 or 2 hotel locations, it might get you a really nice audience, but it's not scalable.
So can you tell us what Aura 8 is?
Yes. So where that led itself to was Aura 8 being born.
Oh, sorry, you were getting there. Sorry, my bad. I'm like, wait, what is the product?
So Aura 8 was born from all the conversations that we were having around...
from your previous company, that is?
Yes.
Okay, makes sense.
So brands wanted to be in those spaces, but they wanted to be in real life. So they wanted to have the experiences within the locations with pop-ups, with creative placements, sponsorships, and activations within the spaces, whether it's a 2-day event or a month-long activation.
Sure.
There was all these things that we were talking about, and that's where we've kind of evolved into. So Aura 8 is now an experiential consultancy and facilitator of brands being in those spaces. And we work with a real diverse sector of locations, from the hotels still. A lot of the hotel groups that we work with, all of the Emaar properties, golf clubs, Polo, Shamal Holdings as well, with the deep dive and skydive Dubai's. So we have really good connections and relationships with the locations, and now we're working with brands to how do we get them into those places in more creative ways. And one of the things that has resonated the most when we talk to any of our potential clients and clients is that we want to bring creativity back to marketing.
Sure.
So where a lot of the agencies are kind of focused on commercial conversations with brands, because it's a tough market. It's a competitive market. They need to be thinking of in a commercial sense. But what we're trying to do is do that while still being very creative at the same time. So coming up with creative concepts, working with brands to say, you want to do something really cool, let's do something. Like you want to be at Skydive Dubai, dropping cars out of a plane type of thing, then let's talk. We will try to figure something out.
I wanted to ask you about one example, but I like this
Yeah.
example.
I mean, that's a very extreme example, and I don't think it's ever going to get off the ground, so to speak, with Skydive Dubai. But they're the types of conversations.
You never know.
This is it. Like if you have a creative mind and go as wild as you can, you can come back from that. It's when you start small, you're never going to grow from something small to something big, because.
I think that the reality of a lot of I'm realizing, even when we started this podcast, or like when I do anything else, I feel like the reality of an idea is it sounds amazing. You're like, okay, these are the 4 check boxes. You do get the guest, you write a script, you record, and then you edit, and then you publish. No, there's so many small details that go into it, and then that logistic kind of like drains you down as well. Right. You know. So I imagine you have to deal with that. We
do. So all of and we're learning. Like with any new business, we're learning as we go. We're having to learn hard lessons as well. It's tough to start a business. Like most businesses fail like within the first year. And we may be one of those statistics. We just don't know. We're trying hard not to be.
You don't.
But
I'm sure.
But yeah, look, it's one of those things. We're still trying to figure out how we fit into the whole ecosystem. Learning as we go with paperwork and agreements in place. Like trying not to get the rug pulled out from under us in some ways, where brands can kind of circumvent us and go directly to location.
Absolutely.
All of those things.
Yeah.
It's there's a minefield of information that we need to troll through to make it work.
Yeah. I'm a bit nerd, but I'm curious about logistics. So what it takes to set up a business here? I mean, like...
Setting up a business is super easy.
Super easy. And did you hire someone to help you to do all
there
paperwork?
There are companies that will do it. So if you look at all the free zones, they usually have their own free zone company set up. You can go to Maidan, you can go to Ajman, you can go anywhere really, and they will help you set up a business.
Oh, okay.
Depending on what you want to do, there are so many different licenses.
Different categories,
Yeah.
right? The service business, product
So
business.
setting up is super easy. That's not the hard part. The hard part is actually getting the business to work.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Every time I've thought of an idea, I think I'm just like, that's what they say. Ideas are many, execution is what makes.
Exactly.
This is amazing that what you're doing. I know many entrepreneurs. Like I've been lucky. My Instagram is filled with advocating for local entrepreneurs. I think I'm a huge advocate for it because I feel like I've, for the last many years, I've been at a full-time job, but I've always aspired to start my own thing. And I think because when I see people do it, I love championing them. It makes me feel like someone did it, and that genuinely makes me happy because that's one day my dream as well. But the reality of things is it's not easy.
It's really tough. And rightly or wrongly, people will always say what you've just said. Like,
Yes.
I want to see people succeed. There's nothing that brings me joy
More joy, yeah.
than seeing someone that I know and care about doing really well.
Yeah.
And I will always advocate for whatever they want to do.
Absolutely.
I know a number of different friends that have gone out and done the hard yards and made a success of their business. It hasn't been easy, and they've struggled, and they've gone through some really tough times. And I'm always inspired deeply by those types of people. And I wish nothing but success for anyone, really. But yeah, when it comes to them actually doing something about it, you will find very quickly that you are all the kind words amount to nothing, really, because you've got to really go out there and do the work.
100%. I feel like this idea of starting your business, the romanticization, if that's a word, around it is...
I think social media is
filled
your head with...
Filled our heads with, like
all
no
the
more,
false narratives that you
no
see.
more
You
9
see the
to
good parts. You don't see all the hard parts that come
I
along
speak
with
to
it.
all my freelancer friends and my friends who own their own business. They're like, okay, no more 9 to 5. It's now 24/7. You know, it's 24/7.
Think of social media like an iceberg. You see the very tip of the good stuff.
Absolutely.
And then there's 1,000 feet of really tough times to get through.
100%. You know, I completely respect that. We obviously wish the best for your business.
Thank you.
And whatever you plan to do, because knowing you, I know just doing one thing is injustice to your intellect and your creativity. So I'm excited to see you do more things,
Thank you.
which I know you will. And have
I'm nothing but if not resourceful.
Absolutely. Looking back, now just looking back a little bit, is there anything that you feel like you could have done differently, personally or career-wise?
That's a question.
A moment that felt like wasn't in the manual, but
I should have gone to college.
Yeah. What? All of this conversation?
Not at all.
We just wasted an hour, you know?
That's crazy.
No, not at all. Look, hindsight is 20/20, right? Like, if I could go back and change some stuff, do I have regrets? Of course I do. I wouldn't be human if I didn't.
Yeah.
But I probably wouldn't change a huge amount because it's led me to where I am and who and grown me into who I am.
Yeah.
I've got, as you said before, my home life is wonderful. I've got a wonderful wife, beautiful wife. This kid that I love more than anything in the world.
Obsessed with him.
Crazy.
He's so cute.
When you have kids, I don't know what happens to you, but something does happen.
Yeah.
And this toddler is going to be the freaking death of me, but he's so worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's led me to where I am and who I am, and I wouldn't change any of that.
So anyone going through life right now that you felt like there's just one thing that is not really taught to us, what would you say to them? Like in one word, like take risks, challenges. I mean, based on your experiences, just like one word of advice or like a sentence of advice you can choose.
Okay, we can give you two sentences.
All of that in one word.
Like one word. Go.
I can't do it in one word, but what I will say is embrace the failure.
Okay.
Like, you will learn more from the failure than you will from the success.
Yeah. And it's like Ahmed says, it's not that deep. Just like you move on, you know?
100%. This is it. Life is filled with failure.
Absolutely,
More so than the success. So if you can learn as much as you can from those failures, you're on the right path.
Yeah,
You'll figure it out.
absolutely.
And that's the other thing. Life goes on. You'll figure it out. Whatever happens.
Yeah, I think they're like two sides of. There's always a narrative, right? People are scared of failure, and people are scared of success as well.
Don't ever be afraid of failure.
Yeah, or success. Actually, it's so
Yeah,
funny. Like
that's a crazy thing.
that's-
Like
it's a
people
crazy
are
thing.
talking themselves out of doing something because they're afraid of it.
They're afraid of it. Yeah, what
What
comes
happens?
along
What
with
happens?
it?
What happens? What if?
Yeah. I also wanted to like add something to when we were talking about looking back on your journey, and I cannot recommend this book enough to people. I mean, at that time, it helped me a lot. It's called The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and it talks about like, you know, when we go back in life and we say, "Oh, I wish I'd done this differently." I absolutely love that book. Maybe it came to me at a time when I needed it, but man, the influence it had because. Well, read it because the gist of it is that
You'll have
it just
to share that with me.
I will get you. I will buy it for you.
Okay,
you know,
great.
it'll be a gift for me.
you.
But that book just brings you back to where you were at because you will choose these multiple lives and you'll realize that where you are at is where you're meant to be. But it's a wonderful book, and I will 100% gift it to you as a special thanks for coming to our
Thank you so
podcast
much. I
and
look
to
forward to
you
reading
because
it.
you're my friend. So like,
I've
it's
read
fine.
this book.
Oh,
Actually.
you've read it?
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
I didn't like it, to be honest.
No way.
That's why I was so
This is
silent. I was like, okay.
conflicting,
No, I love this because I recommended this book to somebody else as well because everyone takes art differently, right? What did you not like about
I don't
it?
know. In my opinion, it was a little bit naive. I mean, like, the book teaches you that there is no wrong steps you can take in your life. But in fact, you can take wrong steps and you can make mistakes in your life. And maybe your life would have been better if you did something else. But I mean, like, you just need to move on. But the
That's
book is telling you,
interesting. That's really, really interesting that you took it that way because it's how you take it as well, by the way. It really matters. I love that take, though. The way I saw it is that you will always look back and be like, oh, I didn't do this, so I'm here in my life. But
Oh, that's a real torturous
yeah,
mindset.
and then you go. So basically, this.
What if I'd have done this? Or
What if
my
I'd
life
done
could have been
this?
so
But-
much better or different or whatever
exactly.
it was.
And the thing is, when that book is great for me, it was like living that life and realizing that, oh, if I had been doing this, then I wouldn't be with like, I don't know, with you
That's
two.
a real quick way of torturing yourself.
Yeah, everyone does it, right?
Yeah,
like
that's
everyone
true.
does it. Like, I wish I'd done this. So interesting you took it that way. It's my favorite book and it's Senya's most hated book. So great. Now we know.
I can't wait to have an opinion on this.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about it. But I think I think it'll be a little biased because I told you how I feel. So I think you'll have two different perspectives.
I'm looking forward to reading it now.
Yeah. Okay, now to my favorite part. Is it's nice to take risks. It's nice to be uncomfortable. But the reality is we live in an expat country and there are bills to be paid.
You are right about that.
While navigating your full-time jobs, did you have any side hustles? And how did you manage your investments and your finances?
Ooh. Side hustles, there's always been something going on in the background.
Yeah.
It's not going to be enough to sustain anything long term, but it's always nice to have other side projects going on.
Sure.
If for no other reason than to keep your mind occupied on different things. So for what my role with Publicis was very much a managerial role. So
Absolutely, yeah.
looking after and mentoring you guys, making sure that your careers were progressing in the right way.
it was.
Yeah,
yeah.
and I'm
So you did
super
a great
proud of both
job.
of you for where you've gone to in both of your careers. But it's always nice to have something that's completely different and separate,
Sure.
so that you can have a fresh.
Stimulate yourself, I suppose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've always got other things to kind of focus on. But there's always been other things going on in the background.
Yeah.
Where
Did you make money with any
No.
of this? because we talk about this. We're like,
No, that's what I mean. Like,
yeah.
there's still bills to pay. You're right.
Sure.
Like the expat community here is very much an expat community.
Yeah.
A lot of transient
Sure.
movement here.
Yeah.
So there is always that pressure of having to provide, pay the bills, whatever it may be, just to stay.
Yeah.
So there's always that in the back of my mind.
Do you save? Do you invest in stocks?
We
Because
do.
we hear a lot about like people investing in property. Like this has been
We
our
haven't
recent...
invested in property, and I think we haven't because of the cost right now. Like inflation
Makes sense.
of property costs are huge right now. We didn't have the means to do it early when we first moved over. But what we have been doing is putting money away every month
Okay, yeah.
for
So you have that formula.
for our like almost like a retirement fund.
Okay,
I say almost.
amazing.
It is a retirement fund.
It is a
We
retirement.
put it into an investment package, and it works for us. So we've
Amazing.
got something to walk away with.
So that gives you comfort to take risks, which is
To a degree.
to a degree, of course, like jump to, because I feel like I might have creative pursuit right now, but like I'm not comfortable enough to pursue that because
Yeah, I would never really want to rely on taking that money
yes,
and sustaining myself for a period of time. I want to keep that as a separate, and I don't want to ever touch that. I put money in. I don't want to ever take money out.
fair.
Unless things get real quick.
Yeah,
So that's
makes
like
sense.
an emergency
That makes sense.
fund.
So
But-
I suppose
but like so many stories that you hear of expats coming over and having a great lifestyle, do the party thing, brunches every weekend, buy the big flashy Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever it is, because they are the wages here are higher than you would get in Europe
Right.
or anywhere really in the States. And you've got this money in your pocket, and
Right.
people like to
spend it. Yeah, and a lot of people live
and they
paycheck to
move
paycheck.
away from the UAE with nothing in their pockets.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's a lot of credit system and buy now, pay later model that people are relying on and not looking at the future enough. So savings, and I know that you invest in
Put
stocks
as much
as well.
money away as you can
Yeah.
while you've got it.
Right. That's amazing, Dylan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So great having you for sharing your story. It was such a great reminder that no one way is the right way to your career. Yeah.
And for anyone out there thinking that you need everything figured out, you don't. Just take a next step and build as you go.